Hey everyone, Arthur Fantastic here. Finally, the numbers are fucking counting down. Excuse my language so early in my podcast for people who are just hearing my material for the first time. I have a problem with YouTube sometimes. Welcome to First Day Biblical Discussion. This is episode 1. Um, we, like the apostles, would like to meet with other believers and discuss the Bible on the first day of the week, which in the modern English is called Sunday, Spanish Domingo, and it's the day following the Sabbath. It's the beginning of the new week cycle. Today we're going to be getting into what a biblical week is, and therefore what a biblical day is. We're going to point to some scripture, obviously the Torah as well, and we are then going to segue over to Nala, who is, or Nala Fit, I believe might be her full username or something like that. She converted recently to what many call Christianity, and many Christians, believers, are defending her, but not holding her to the standard that we're supposed to be held to because of the effeminate nature of modern Christianity. Finally, we're going to touch on the subject of the erroneous belief of women waiting for a husband. Obviously, stick around here. We've got a lot to talk about. Jump into the chat. I'm here to talk to anyone that wants to engage as much as possible when I'm not working a thought through. Um, uh, Catch me up on IG, Arthur Fantastic 1K instead of IC Holler. And also social media, Arthur Fantastic. That's, if you find it's probably going to be me. I have a second channel, Arthur Fantastic, where we talk about karate, MMA, and movie reviews. I've done one movie review regarding, but it's like a sports movie review regarding boxing, because it's about martial arts. This is something that I might talk about more often. I talk about martial arts movies on that channel. Nonetheless, it's about martial arts and wrestling. I do a couple breakdowns of karate combat, wrestling techniques, jiu-jitsu techniques, and things of that nature. I think it's important to what we're doing here. I've only separated on YouTube because YouTube is giving me problems when I talk about the Bible. And so I can at least try to maintain some semblance of um, presence, some semblance of a presence on YouTube if something happens to this account. I don't know if they'll do that to both accounts. I don't know how that works. But if you do like that type of content and you're watching my live today, go over there. Link will be in the description as well. Once this is posted to the page after it's been processed, it usually takes like 24 hours or something like that before I can put it up. And yeah, that will be there. Obviously, I've also linked it in other videos if you want to check it out. Arthur Fantastic. You can just, two separate words. You can look that up. I think that's all for the plugs. I think that's everything that I'm plugging today. I feel like I could get better light if I turn this way a little bit more. Like my light here is like, okay, maybe like that. Okay, I need to get my prop up here and prop it up better. Last thing before we really get into everything is I'm just going to check and make sure that the sound isn't garbage. So just give me a second here. In the meantime, Taylor, thoughts over there on the subjects today? Anything that you would want to talk about with me today when we get to that subject?
I think the subjects are great, and no, I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay. Today we're doing the whole vertical. That's what YouTube actually suggests. And so I'm just going to go with the recommendation today. I know that many times they're recommending it to you not because it's bad. They're recommending it to you because they're trying to. All right, yeah, we got good sound. All right, we got good sound. Good. Okay, that's important. right, the description have anything in there? Okay. All right. So we've checked the sound. We've checked everything, made sure everything's cool. Uh and yeah. All right. So the first subject of the day is we're going to discuss why the name First Day Biblical Discussion. Um what happened there? Is it gonna come back or whatever? You got to eventually have to. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. Taylor is my behind the scenes running the technical portion of things, and by technical I mean supporting me. um we're gonna start. So we're gonna start off today with why first day biblical discussion. Why is it called that? Um, why are we doing it on Sunday? I'm also thinking about doing stuff on uh, the Sabbath, but like physically get people together on the Sabbath and commune that way. If in terms of what we're discussing in first day, you first have to understand how the Bible sees a day and then how the Bible sees a week. A day is a evening, then a night. This is all throughout the Torah, especially when we see the portions about the feasts and how a day starts at the evening. So it's an evening, then a day. We can even go to the New Testament, John 20:19. John being very Hebrew, um, he says, on the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the disciples gathered together and locked the doors of the place because they were okay. And then it goes on. So he's talking about on the evening of the day, the first day of the week. He's talking about right after Sabbath. So they're together on the Sabbath. They're chilling, resting. That's what they did every Sabbath. They're either in a synagogue, they're resting, they're in the temple, they're together at a house, together communing together. And it's not like you're like pressure. You have to be there at some time, and you have to be there for a certain. It's like, dude, it's like your family come hang out for a while. You know what I mean? And every once in a while, someone's gonna read. You know what I mean? The Torah. That's what all throughout, even in the New Testament, when people are talking about what they are reading in the synagogues, because the original lines between Christianity and Judaism, both of which did not exist in the beginning, it was a sect called the Way, and then there was several sects of it's a difficult word of other Jewish believers. There was like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. There's a school of Shammai, and there's all these other things. There's the uh, community in Qumran. What did they call themselves? It's eluding me at the moment. Something ites. Uh, there's the Ebionites. There was many like small sects of people, and then there was like Marcion was created his own. Uh, he created the first Bible, in fact, and he wanted to throw away basically the Old Testament. Say the God of the New Testament was different from the God of the Old Testament, essentially, and that eventually led to Gnosticism. Um, and there's a lot to say going in that, but before I can go into that tangent, we first want to just establish what a day is. um there God says let there be light, right? There's a day and then a night, and I mean a night and then a day, a night and then a day. um the reason being the apostles would meet on the first day is because they're already together. uh Acts 20 talks about on the first day of the week when we were gathered together to break bread. You don't break bread early in the morning, okay? People had things to do. You know, the Sunday was the first day of the week. They don't have weekends. So they would be there, right there on Sabbath. It'd be nighttime of Saturday, or Sabado in Spanish, right? Most language will refer to the seventh day as the Sabbath. In fact, the root word of the word that they use, like Sabado or Sabaton, and a whole bunch of other languages, their root word is Sabbath. Um, and that's regarding the biblical Sabbath. It's not like everybody just came up with the idea for the Sabbath. That's from the Bible. Now, um, why that it's important is because the modern church will talk about the new day of worship being Sunday, and Sunday being the replacement for the previous uh, commandment, permanent statute that was in place for the Sabbath, the seventh day Sabbath. Okay. Now, some people will immediately disparage and be like, oh, you're a Seventh day Adventist. No, I am not. I'm just, I'm a commandment keeper. Okay. I observe the commandments. Okay. And the commandments aren't limited to the 10 statements or the 10 words, which is what it would be called in Hebrew. It's not called the 10 commandments. Each may be referred to as a misvote or a commandment, but there are many commandments. God commands many things in the Torah, okay? And there is not a lot, okay? Many people will say, getting into another tangent here, when we're talking about the Sabbath, people are going to immediately have these discussions. Oh, the 613 misvoted, the 613 commandments. Do you follow all 613 commandments? There is no such thing as 613 commandments. This is uh, an anachronistic, that is out of time, um, commentary from the Talmud, a rabbi from the Talmud in like the 3rd or 4th century AD. That's when it's written down. Oh, supposedly it existed before then. Well, we had literally, they said it wasn't written before then. Okay. And this sermon itself is recorded from that time, not as in it's from before that time, as they argue with some of the things in their Talmud. Going on here, that number 613 comes from 365 days in a year. Oh, you should follow the laws every 365 days a year, and with all your body, meaning the 248 bones they thought were in the human body. Okay, so it's an arbitrary number, 613. It isn't real. That isn't a real number. Okay, the number is recorded as being half that number by a rabbi previous, who also notated that because the temple doesn't exist, XYZ can't be done. You know what I mean? All these Levitical law, blah, you know what I mean? Which is essentially what is true. You know what I mean? And then you go further into it, and only a portion is for farmers. Only a portion for it, like we said, is for Levitical priesthood. It's a large chunk, about a third. There's laws that are for women, children, going to war. It doesn't all, not every one of them applies to everyone. Not all of them are active. Oh, I have to do them. It's a lot of them are do not do something. Do not with an animal, men with men, close familial relationships, and so forth. These are things that we still believe today, but a majority of Christianity will say, oh, we don't follow the Old Testament anymore. That isn't true. We do. It's implicit. But because of the ignorance of the text and the actual, where we can literally take a string right now, and then we can run it all the way back to what's the oldest place that this advice and this morality is in place, and where is it from? And that would be the Bible. Okay. Outside of the Bible, rape is a property crime. In the Bible, it's a moral crime and you get put to death for it. Okay? Outside of the Bible, you could kidnap people, enslave people, dominate people. In the Bible, Exodus 21:16, any man who's found with someone that they have stolen and kidnapped, whether they be in their possession or already sold as in property, they are to be put to death. So chattel slavery is also illegal in the Bible. And so we go on to another subject that this is going to make me go into these random tangents of long-winded explanations of, like, if you just read the Bible, you'd know that the Israelites are being delivered out of slavery, and God says, don't make other slaves of people, knowing that you just came out of bondage of Egypt. So slavery is explicitly illegal. But what we see in the Bible as quote unquote slave, alternatively translated as servant by some translations, and some translations intermingled, is more akin to what we do today. Anybody that worked for another person in that time is considered a quote unquote slave or servant. So what we are today are wage slaves or debt slaves, okay, which is the same thing they had. They would just they're just more they would just use more serious language and take it more seriously, as opposed to today where we can just go from job to job and whatever the heck. And there's more honor back then, and it's not really, this turnover rate society ain't really good anyway. But I digress. It was completely based on debt, or were you working for somebody, you're a servant or slave. Punishment for crime: if you stole something or did damages and you couldn't pay it off, you could pay it off with servitude, as well as war prisoners. Okay, all retained rights. And I'll argue anyone on the subject. I've gone through a lot of this on this channel already, so check that out. So, me having just talk about the Sabbath will trigger a lot of modern Christians in their mind about these pre-inculcated arguments and biases against things that may contradict what their particular doctrine or a part of their doctrine may say. And then it becomes Agent Smith. I can't talk, I can't reflect, I can't respond. I have to immediately shame, insult, guilt, and then just insist on being right despite any uh, factual, textual response, you know what I mean, that you can't debunk. It becomes cognitive dissonance for a lot of people, unfortunately. And unfortunately, a lot of Christianity is like that. And there may and just this the overall being a Christian can sometimes be like very conflicting inside. You know what I mean? Like, I need to do good, but I'm fighting against my flesh, which is under the law of sin and death, and trying to appeal to the Holy Spirit that Yah has put in me and follow the law of God, as he says, Paul says in Romans 6, 7, and 8. So we have all these issues that I know will pop in people's heads when they watch my first episode, if this is the first time they're watching one of my material, and I'll have to just go through a whole bunch of like, oh, but what about this? What about the 613? And and it seems like I'm going on a tangent. Um, but because this is episode 1, and I know that the immediate response will be, what about this? What about that? What about this? I think it's necessary to immediately respond to those things so that people will continue watching what I'm saying without the resistance or hesitance that they have from their aforementioned inculcated, zombified, sheepified, I'm regurgitating their bleh, regurgitating what they've been told, like with no thought in their own mind to actually um listen and analyze what the other person is saying. Rather, they're just programmed to respond, which is a problem in a lot of places, including relationships, including our relationship with God, and all these problems, interspoke with one another and intertwine. Um, but to make it simply, one has to just do a little bit of research to find that the biblical day is night first, then day. And this is going all the way back. If you read it from the beginning to the end, this is something that you'll know. It's just something that, oh, of course. And it's like spoken when, as I spoke earlier, when you get to the feasts, this is some of the most clearest places that explain how a biblical day begins at sunset. Like Passover, for instance, is a meal, also a feast that begins the feast of unleavened bread, and it happens at sunset. And the first day begins at sunset, and then it's a day, sunset, day, sunset, day. And this is um, uh, biblically verifiable. You can go anywhere. You can go to Wikipedia. You can just type in Google. We can type in Google right now. Let's see what Google brings up. Biblical. Oh, look, you have a little window that stays up. Oh, dang. I don't know why your phone keeps losing that connection. We'll go back to that in a moment. But if you just search that up, and you'll see a plethora of resources that will explain how um, a biblical day works. Let's see if I can try again right there. Boom. Thanks. Scholars long believed that the day began at sunset according to Jewish tradition. Um, okay, let's see here. Oh, and that was andrews.edu. When the biblical day begins and ends, this is davidwilbur.com. The day begins with darkness before light. As I had alluded to earlier, God said, "Let there be light." There was darkness first, then there's light. Then God brought forth, then God brought light. Um, then after God brought light, the Bible defines a day as such. And if I can click it and it loads, that would be stupendous. That would be stupendous. But it's a very long loading bar. So once again, I don't want to go too much longer into it because I spent like 10 minutes talking about uh, the counterpoints that people immediately try to bring up and try to debunk the Sabbath, despite the law itself saying this is a statute forever as a sign of my covenant. And there are many such things, and I've discussed many such things on the channel. So really, let's get to the now. Maybe if this loads in the next couple seconds, we'll get this going. Making sure the stream is also playing here, so I have good vision on this. Oh, this is working out. This is not working out. What else? What else? The second it's almost loaded, and then it's stopping, and I'm like, here it is. All right. The Bible defines a day as such, and there was evening and there was morning, the first day. This phrase is repeated several times. Genesis 1:8, Genesis 1:13, Genesis 1:19, Genesis 1:23, Genesis 1:31. Thus, the first day, as defined by Scripture, consists of an evening first, then a morning. This pattern is the basis for the position that a biblical day is from sundown to sundown, or sunset to sunset, right? As I said, that's David Wilbur. I've made videos on him as well on my channel, debunking some of his stances, but like I said, some of his other things is great. I just really disagree with him on the subject of well, several subjects actually, including his effeminate nature, which is to me one of the underlying issues of the church, whether it be Torah observers, Hebrew roots, Seventh day Adventists, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, whatever the heck, Jewish, is that there it has become effeminate. It has become very feminized. And the place that feminism is thriving today is the church. Feminism is pretty much dying outside the church. It's only like few people, like the majority of the population does not identify as a feminist. Okay, they still have the feminist ideals inside their head, right, which are mostly being propagated in the church. I have some uh videos that will be dropping on this subject on my BitChute, as well as there are plenty of other content creators here on YouTube that I would point you to, but I don't remember their name. I will be mirroring some of that stuff on BitChute because I see a lot of content like this being just deleted off the internet. So there is tons of scriptural data on this, though some people will argue, as notated here, that certain biblical texts seem to indicate the day begins in the morning and others that it begins in the evening. I think that there may be some type of typographical issues here when they say that the day begins in the morning, because the Bible does not have any contradictions. So it might just be the language. Um, Certain biblical texts seem. I think that's a really weak, uh, a really weak uh, word to use when we know, if you start reading the book from the beginning to the end, evening, then a morning, then and use that as which I try to uh, emphasize so much on this channel. If you take the Torah, the law, and you take it as it is, okay, as the law, which defines God's morality and what he thinks instead of what we think, and then you apply it to the rest of the Bible, then why would it change? Many Christians will say, "Oh, homosexuality," but they'll throw away Leviticus. Well, guess where you think that? Where is that? Where is Paul teaching from on the matter? Where is John finding these words? All right. Where is Jesus? What is he talking about? Why is everybody asking him about the law? And why is he correcting everyone on the law in every public appearance that he makes? Because it's important. It's the basis of our faith. And the biblical first day of the week is the evening of Saturday, so called, and the morning or the day, the light time of Sunday or Domingo, whatever you want to say. And that means that the second day is the evening of Sunday, and followed by the day of Monday, okay, and so on and so forth. So So the biblical week is completely different from what we practice today in our minds. What God wants us to look how God sees a day, and then now we've decided, no, well, a day is a this and this. Why? Because that's what Babylon and society says. But if you want to see the Bible the way that the Bible wants us to see things, not only the Bible, but everything, how God sees it. We want to be more like God, like Jesus. Jesus is God, right? Jesus is an earthly reflection, right, of God, because God came down and he was himself. It's ergo that is what God would do. There's no God does not disagree with himself. That there's no point where God and Jesus are disagreeing. So we should really try to see things the way that it is intended to be seen, not just the Bible, but all of creation. Okay, as believers. Um, so that also changes a lot of how you read the scripture because of how, I mean, Jesus dies on Passover, raises on the feast of during the feast of unleavened bread, raises on the feast of first fruits, which is exactly why uh, Paul calls Jesus the first fruits of the dead, right? 7 weeks later, okay, plus one is Pentecost. 50 days, Penta, 50, Pentecost, right? But that's exactly the feast of Shavuot, right? And all of these things reflect back. These are parts of you start with the days of the week, and then you're like, oh, well, God wanted us to see certain days, and oh, God dies before, God, that is Jesus, dies before um sunset on the preparation day for Passover. Huh. This is strange. Or is it exactly what God intended, going back all the way to when he instituted the feast in the first place? So that subject of the biblical week, why we should have the biblical idea, going back to why we should keep the Sabbath, going back to why the apostles met on the first day of the week, and seeing things from a more biblical standpoint is so essential to us immersing ourselves in the Bible. Okay, because if we start saying, okay, I'm going to look at the Bible as I look at it today, you wouldn't understand that chattel slavery is illegal in the Bible. You'll just judge the Bible for it having quote unquote slaves, because that word is rendered thusly, though it's sometimes rendered as servant or bondservant. And that would be easier to on the palate of the modern West, right? Because of their anachronistic ideas of colonial slavery. But such a thing can't happen if you're not trying to immerse yourself into the culture of the Bible and understand such things. And it seems basic, but when you start with, oh, okay, I need to see the days of the week the way that they saw it when I read this Bible, and maybe when I look at creation, then you might say, okay, I have to understand what they meant by X, Y, Z, whether it be uh, so-called slavery in the Bible, which is explicitly outlawed the way that we would think about it, and or the commandments. I have to look about what did the Bible mean by these are his command? Is it just the 10? Is that what it is? Is that what the Bible even calls them? Is that what the culture calls them? is is that the complete sum total of what we should follow? And if so, then by that standard, can you justify being an abolitionist for slavery, being an abolitionist for uh, abortion, being against LGTB, BBQ, against close familial sexual relationships. That's where the Bible says it. Says it. Don't do it in Leviticus, but people want to throw it up. So if you look at things one way, you might start remolding the entire way you look at the Bible, and that's just the first dot on a long list of dots that you need to help connect to um, a better conceptual understanding of the Bible that you can then put yourself and immerse yourself in the Bible more. Um, uh, Going forward, okay, first day biblical discussion will be on the first day at some point, hopefully, going forward. Sometimes I'll do it on Saturday nights, and some days I'll do it during the day when I feel that the Spirit has moved me, or it I know that it has to be done at this time, or I won't do it. Because sometimes I want to do stuff on the Sabbath, and I'm like, uh, I'll let this and pray and think about it. But sometimes I'm just so I need to record it right then, and I don't know, it's not work, but I know sometimes I get donations and things like that, and I don't want to be working, but I don't see it as work. You know what I mean? I don't see it as uh, a financial move or some kind of commerce. I'm literally recording like a sermon in some quasi way. You know what I mean? Okay, so moving forward to the next subject, the Nala fit conversion. As it develops, it doesn't look any better. It's looking more and more like a grift. Um, after after much shame, pressure, um, from actually believing Christians, it looks like Nala has deleted her account, or it's on some type of suspension, or it's on some type of um, on some type of I don't know uh, hiatus. We don't know. I haven't heard anything. I wouldn't believe anything that she said anyway. But here's the issue with that, because I believe in like Rahab, the prostitute. She was saved. A she put a tent peg through a dude's head and is mentioned in the genealogy of the Messiah. So all these people like oh, prostitutes can never shut up, Laura Loomer. I'm also not for oh, look, she's saved. Look, she's saved. She dunked herself. She got dunked in water, and that means she's saved. I'm waiting for her actions and the fruits of her actions, and I will judge her by her fruits. It took her a really long time to delete those videos. She literally put them on. She said, fuck it, and put all of her videos for free for a week. There's continued testimony from people that are saying that they're getting $10 contents, $10 private content, okay, in the messaging system. I don't know how OnlyFans work. I think there's like DMs. I always see women. Oh, if you want to DM me on OnlyFans. I guess there's a DM system where you can send content, private content. I thought that was like a Snapchat thing or something. I was like, oh, you have to go on Snapchat to get the private content, or I don't know. Anyway, uh, in addition to all those testimonies, I haven't seen any kind of really change of behavior. And as a believer, I think, see, in the beginning of the early church, before you could be like, oh, I'm a believer and I represent you would take it would be a 3-year process of memorizing Psalms and certain scriptures and being like taught. You know what I mean? You don't get to say I believe in Jesus and then tomorrow you get to teach him because you don't know nothing about him. You can't defend your position. You're a baby. Get on the baby milk. When you're an adult and you're ready for adult solid food, then you can teach. Okay? And I'm just and what I'm quoting is Hebrews 5. You know, let me read that. I'll bring it up. Hebrews 5. I love Bible Hub. Hebrews 5 here. Um there's so much like, oh, now I have the passion. Yes, you have the passion, but that passion, that fire needs to be shaped and honed like a sword. You don't go swinging. You don't go half cocked. You are trained, okay? And a lot of modern Christianity, there is no such thing. No one takes that time. No one sits everything else down and starts reading the Bible and learning from other Christians. They're like, I'm a Christian now and I'm going to try to live a good life now. What's a good life? Based on what standard? According to who are you doing a good job? Only God is good. Are you basing on your God's judgment that you're good? Because you better humble yourself. That's crazy. Because only God is good. That's what Jesus says. Which is also letting when he says, it's like he's like good teacher, and he's like, who's good other than God? He's also pointing to himself being God, but that's a story for another day. We go to Hebrews 5, 11 through 14, and it's called Milk and Solid Food is the subsection title. Verse 11, Hebrews 5, verse 11. We have much to say about this, but it's hard to explain because you're dull of hearing. Verse 12, although by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to reteach you the basic principle of God's word. You need milk, not solid food. Verse 13, for everyone who lives on milk is still an infant, inexperienced in the word, in the message of righteousness. Righteousness, guys. Pin that real quick. Verse 14, but solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained their senses to distinguish good from evil. If I can, the message of righteousness, okay, and God's righteousness, okay, and the way and the life and the truth are all references to the law of God, the Torah. And when it's also called the word. Okay? So when Jesus calls himself the word, the light, the way, the life, these are all also references to the Torah and the law and how we should be living our life. And to distinguish good from evil is only can be done by looking at God's law, not man's law, not your heart, which the Bible said is full of lies, lust, and deceit. We go to God's law. We meditate on God's law. We don't meditate and clear our minds like the pagans. We meditate on the law. We meditate on his word, not just whatever we want to come in our minds, like a channeler or something like that, a sorcerer. So these type of discussions have gone on since the beginning of the church, since the writing of the scripture, Hebrews. Okay, this is what James is talking about. This is why this is why John writes his first letter. Like, it's like people don't see this because they have so many doctrines, as I have briefly touched on before, that has stopped them from being able to think and program them to respond. Oh, once saved, always saved. Or, oh, that's done away with. That's Old Testament. Or, oh, I live under the Spirit. Well, the Spirit, according to Ezekiel 36:27, causes a believer to walk in his statutes and his commandments, aka the law. Your Honor, if I may, this argument that the law is done away with, it's just absolutely ludicrous. Ludicrous. If Ludacris just busted in here and made a guest appearance, that'd be nuts. Um, Needless to say, um, she shouldn't be going out there trying to she should be going as a woman, first off, humbling herself, taking off all the fucking uh inappropriate material on all of her social media. Has she done that? Has she done that? Is her Instagram still have her pictures that are inappropriate?
No, she's taking a lot more off.
She's taking a lot more off. It's been a process, which I appreciate that if she continues going down that way, okay, but there shouldn't be a blog of her teaching anything. It should be her taking all her time and throwing it into it. She doesn't have time to make blogs. She has time to read the Bible, listen to teachers of varying sorts, okay, and read the Bible and have a covering that also does such a thing and teaches her, that being her husband, okay, that they better be married, I hope. And it's just the reason why it's a fake conversion uh, is, first off, according to all the testimony, that she's still doing private DMs. She put up all that stuff. She let uh, for free for a week. She let the OnlyFans go through multiple pay cycles for people who are paying for the OnlyFans, still taking money from it. And I'd understand if she was single and she was like, I'm getting out of the game, and if people still want to support me for these last couple months, I'm gonna take some money and get out. But she has a man. It's supposedly high value. She doesn't need to fucking doing this. This is just rat shit. And I'm glad people are holding her to the fire. Can a rat change? I don't know. I want to see a real desire from Nala to be Christian, and I don't see it. I see her talking on Michael Knowles and other people's podcasts, and it doesn't seem in any way any different. It doesn't seem repenting. It just seems like a major grift. And Michael Knowles is just proving Christianity more and more. This over feminist like dive for these so-called sex worker so-called conversions is weak. Treat them like everyone else. Don't put them on a pedestal. You're just doing what everyone else has done before them. You've put them on a pedestal. It's supposed to be a humbling experience of community, not you using them as some, look at this person. Because if they don't change and they don't make a committed, you're going to look like an idiot. And you already do. You look like the simps that just simped for their OnlyFans, right? But now she just changed the topic because she doesn't look that good anymore because she's been the game you're so used up. I don't know why people think that it's a good idea to pander to these women who are doing the antithesis of what the Bible calls for. Whether you look at it as the decorum, or if you look at the lewd things that she was doing, or you look at, and they say that she's still doing, allegedly. By pandering to these people, instead of just making them a believer, another believer, that you don't get special kitty gloves, you get taught, you have to pursue it, I'm going to help you, but they're just putting it on everywhere because it's not about her conversion. It's about them getting clicks off her conversion. It's not really holding her to the fire. I don't trust Michael Knowles anymore. I don't trust anyone at the Daily Wire anymore. I don't trust none of them, except like maybe Matt Walsh on some things. You know what I mean? Michael Knowles has some great stuff. I still have one of his speeches that I haven't posted or published on my channel on BitChute that I eventually will, because he's talking about abortion. Unfortunately, what's going on here? Maybe, oh, I see. Give this get it, yeah. Uh, he is becoming more and more. Effeminate, in my opinion, because of when you have nobody or respect nobody else in their opinion, you think so highly of yourself, and you have this air of my intellectuality is so good and my position is so good that even factual based good arguments, reason, logical based arguments, I won't even entertain because I appeal to XYZ. Sometimes it's the Catholic Church. Sometimes it's mainstream Republicanism. Sometimes it's appealing to the 1950s ideal idea of some sort, which is not so ideal because it's just as baby boomer as everything else, and you have to really have a snap back to the reality of what the Bible's calling for. Um, it's a damn shame, and pandering to these women is just going to make more of them. Pandering to them is just going to open the floodgates for the older, used up OnlyFans chicks to start closing down their OnlyFans and saying, I'm saved. And it's been done way too many times. It was done by porn stars in the 90s until this day. They're using Jesus as a shield to defend them doing sex work. They're using Jesus and the Bible to otherwise they're using Jesus and the Bible to erase their past. And I'm changed now. After I was used up and did everything on my OnlyFans and was a porn star or whatever the F, or I was a stripper and did XYZ. It's going to open the floodgates for that type of grift over and over and over again. And it's going to make Christianity look so shit. It's just like when I was saying about republicanism, like more than 6-7 years ago. There needs to be some gatekeeping. Start gatekeeping. This is insanity. Hold people accountable. But this is the opposite. It's not holding people accountable. It's giving them a pedestal and saying, oh, see, you made the right decision. Good job. There's supposed to be love and kindness, but there's not supposed to be this ridiculous, over-the-top female worship of someone who isn't doing a really good job. Okay? And it's way too public for it to be ignored. Okay? Stop. Don't ride for people on every issue for no reason and then don't hold them accountable. If you like Trump, fine. Okay, I like Trump too, but hold him accountable for the things he does wrong. Don't believe everything everyone says about him, but I mean, he was behind the vax, right? Wasn't he? Is he going to say anything about that, or is he still going to double down on how good that shit is? Okay, hold him accountable and he will listen. He's that type of person. Unfortunately, not everyone's that type of person. And these people will go on living in a very, very anti-Christ way and then represent Christ that way. And it will also lead other people to believe wrongly about Christ to the point where, as I said, and where we are today, where porn stars and people who make filth for a living use Jesus and the Bible to defend what they do, to say, oh, well, Jesus will love me, and Jesus, once saved, always saved, or people will actually use it. It's like, well, that's not a real belief in once saved, always saved. Someone said, when you believe in when you believe in impunity, you act with impunity. So, I mean, once saved, always saved is immediately a bad doctrine, because that means Judas is in heaven, and anybody else who, oh, they weren't really saved in the first place. Oh, so now we can just move the goalposts, and what it that you need to then be a definitive marker then for knowing when a person is saved, or we leave that up to God and try our best to live by his moral standard instead of just flicking off these sloganized ideals. Slogans are for dead people. That's where the original of the word is. It's from the dead. The dead repeat slogans. Okay? I'm very wary of any slogan from the Bible. That's why I read it instead. All this is just to say, like, we should be more discerning and hold people to the fire, hold people accountable. I don't think this. I pray for her. I don't see any actual change. I haven't seen any pictures of her man, so that she supposedly has, and this is just going to open the floodgates for other OF fans, other only fools to do this. Okay, and so that being said, we'll move on to the last thing, and well, and like I said and prefaced everything to be, I hope that she changes. Rahab is mentioned in the genealogy of the Messiah. There's no one that God cannot change. Okay, there's no one that God cannot work through. The purpose of this discussion was to hold her to the fire, point out some things that people are saying allegedly, and try to discern for ourselves if this conversion is true and what has she really learned and what has she really shown. Okay, and then finally reflect on what we're doing about it. Should we be holding her like this little bell, and we're all little cats, and we're all this TikTok, the little nation? They're using her and she's using them, and it's a double parasitic, symbiotic at this point, a relationship, and no one is actually getting any truth out of the situation. Moving on to the last thing, a lot of people. Oh, wait. Before we go into this, do you have anything to add about the Nala situation?
I do. She's not the only one.
She's not the only one.
That's pretending
Right.
to be. There's this other girl, I don't know her name, but she's an OnlyFans model, and she's lying, straight out lying, calling herself a virgin.
A virgin, that's
and
right.
saying that she is doing Bible study on her OnlyFans, and there's clearly videos people have seen her having sex on camera.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear that, and I wish I could, the connection is just not doing well for her phone. There's a girl who, she was on the whatever podcast, she was on Fresh and Fit too, and she claims that she's a virgin and she's doing Bible study on her OnlyFans, but there is video of her having sex with other people. And Brian from whatever podcast held her accountable. She's like, you're a liar. And you might be a pathological liar. I don't know if he said that, but I'll say it for him because he said it to other people. Would have been perfect to say it. And there is data of her actually being a liar once again, and she's dressing up very, very, very provocatively, to say the least. I mean, I like the top. I like how she looks in it. If she had a husband and her husband allows her to wear it, that's up to him. All that modesty stuff is set by the husband, the covering, the father, and then the husband. If I was the father, I wouldn't let her wear it. If I was the husband, I might have her wear a little bit more waist down. I think she was wearing like very little waist down too. This I digress, though. Right? She's claiming to be Christian. She's claiming to be a virgin, which is an absolute lie. So she's already a hypocrite. She's a liar. God hates liars. Proverbs 6, or is that 7? Regardless, so go read both of those proverbs. I would look it up right now, but unfortunately, my backup phone is not doing well with the internet connection. And they're not the only ones. There was these women, which is going to help me segue into the next subject. In fact, but before I anything else to add on the Nala and this other chick? She's she's like a straight up liar. She straight up lied about
I've been noticing.
misrepresenting Christianity.
Yeah, I just think it is
So
going to be a more prevalent thing where porn actresses and OnlyFans models are going to be um, seeing that like men are not going to be taking their provocative activities anymore, and if they actually want a husband, they have to change. So it's going to be a lot of these women.
And it's always going to be when they feel like used up, when they've done it a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, how old is Nala?
Nala, I think, is only like 22, 23.
Yeah, but she went through it. She went through it to her own attestation. If you listen to what she says, she went through it. I mean, there was a lot of it's that she went through.
I mean, to be the top 1% creator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the recorded stuff. When she's talking about her fucking personal life, disgusting. Okay, guys, we haven't seen the guy that supposedly is changing her life. I haven't. She hasn't. We've been trying to follow it. I mean, I'm not obsessed. I don't even I didn't even know that it was deleted until she just showed me. And I don't know. I just it's just this bad look. You know what I mean? Oh, you're obsessed. No, it looks bad. It's a bad look for our belief system.
Our Christianity.
And it's just proving that our Christianity is so feckless and weak that it can't even like filter out bad shit that it's going to be bad for it. It has to be so weak and encouraging and enabling that it can't just say no, that's bad. Hey, shut your mouth. Be quiet for a little while and humble yourself in your conversion. Don't fucking be all about that. Like, shut your social media down. Shut the fuck. Shh. Christianity can't do that. Christianity has to be like, oh wow, welcome, so good for you. I know that I know that you just made all of your pornography free. But thank you. Oh my God, thank you so much. I'm just beyond. It's become this insane thing. What? And oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. It just it leads me to these other women that are also on a similar podcast. It was on a Fresh and Fit, I believe, and it was these women that said that they were virgins and like 40 years old. Can you tell me more about that?
On the Whatever podcast.
It was with a Whatever podcast. Go ahead.
Yes. I think they were both Catholic, or I think one was Catholic and one was Seventh-day Adventist, but they were both 40-year-old virgin women, and they were still having like feminist talking points like, well, I just don't understand what's the obsession of sex, like it doesn't, it doesn't matter, and like I'm secure in my relationship with God, and that's the only thing that matters. And Brian was like, okay, well, of course you're not going to have sex, before marriage, but what if that never happens? What if you never get married and you never have sex? And they were just like, well, it never happens.
They'd be sad about it. They think about it. That they read romance novels. That they watch romance movies and they think about a man. They say that they want husbands, so that they think about it, maybe though they have not thought about it in a rational way.
Right.
And it's sad because I've seen many women like this. You know, there are many good Catholic women, there are many good Seventh-day Adventist women, there are many good Christian women, the whole umbrella of Christianity, and they have a lot of misconceptions on what they need to do, but there are a lot of good women. But the problem is they have this erroneous doctrine that waiting for a husband is a legitimate way. That, oh, God's going to give me a husband. God's my husband. No, he's not. God's not having sex with you. He's not giving you children. He's not paying your bills. All right? God is God. Okay? He might be your spiritual husband, but he's not your literal husband. We're not all literally going to be married to God. As I'm a man, I'm not going to be married to God in the kingdom. It's a allegory. Okay? So when women are like, God's my husband, or I don't need a man because God's my husband, or I'm just waiting. God just wants me to wait. Even worse, they speak for God and they say that He wants you to wait. Boaz, right? I need a Boaz.
Mhm.
Ruth goes to Boaz in the middle of the night, sleeps at his feet, and then begs him when he wakes up to redeem her. That is, it, ha, marry her and then give her a baby, which is involves sex, right? She begs him, and he says, "Oh, of course, go out though. We won't do this all right now. You're a respectable woman. I'm going to do this in a respectable way." Okay. These women are begging to be with a man. These women are the opposite. They're prideful. I don't need it. They want it. They obviously need a man, which the Bible says you need a man. The man is made, and then the woman was made for a man. It says, man will dominate. What does it say? Men will rule over you and you will serve the man. It says respect your husband. It says submit to your husband. Women are not doing this. Their future husband they're not submitting to. They don't even talk to men. They're waiting. Okay? God may have sent them men, but they probably said no. And that's the problem with a lot of Christian women. Some woman earlier today, which I'm going to be making a response to, says, "Oh, God isn't sending multiple men. These men aren't even get ready to get married." The men, first off, that are uh in the church, no, even more general, majority of men in America are single, childless, and in the middle class. The majority. Okay? So when the majority of men are in the single, in the middle class, single in the middle class, and childless. I like women are like, oh, men are having all these, like all men are doing this. Like only a small percentage of men can have multiple children with multiple baby mamas because of a bad culture. Okay, and if there was a good culture, even less men would be able to do it. Right? Okay, that's why different cultures have different rates of single motherhood and single fatherhood, etc. Okay, so when we see that this issue of waiting results in old women that never get married. Paul says, don't put a woman on the widow list who's a widow until she's 60. So women who are widows before 60, they need to get married. Women need to get married. That's the entire conceptual expectation in the Bible, that the authority of the father is handed over to the husband of the woman, and now he's the new authority over her, and she becomes the authority over the children that they make, right? And the husband loves her like Jesus loves the church, and then she gives that love to the children, and the love gives it back up to the mother, and it goes back up to the father, and there's like a loop of a good almost feedback loop, but it's a feedback that's good, and it's and it's self-powering, and if it's done correctly, it can create good things. But if done incorrectly, by the reckoning of man's ideas and concepts that they reckon, they make shit. They make shit that's that kills people. They make shit that trauma gives people trauma. They make shit. If we just follow God and His way and what He says and His morality, which we all base our morality on, what is good and evil, we don't base it on anything else. Which is another thing that I would love to argue with somebody about. It's the dumbest thing that people. Morality is an objective thing, and it comes from God. All right, and people are like, "Oh, that's not true." Okay, so there's no truth. Where do you get truth? Is that not something that exists out of reality? If truth and logic exist out of reality and is unchanging and determines all truth and logic, or if, oh, well, that doesn't, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the supernatural. Oh, you believe in numbers, though, right? Those aren't physical things, those are just ideas. There isn't a one floating out through space somewhere. One is a way to describe something. I can count the quantity of something. Okay, I don't say in the I have three threes. You might have three cards that say three on it, but you don't have three threes. If something like that can exist outside of the physical realm constantly, and it would exist without us ever saying that it existed, that constitutes the same idea of what God is. God is literally the foundation of logic, which would be math, logic, and truth. And we can't have conversations at all if those things didn't fucking exist. And you can't just insist that they exist because they exist, or they exist because of evolution. That wouldn't be logic. That wouldn't be truth. That would be chemical reactions that led to a certain pattern of other reactions that are subjective in time and only objective to the physical user of our physical body. That's dumb. But we can't have those conversations outside the church, so we can have this conversation um, about women waiting. I know that seemed to be a digression, but that the idea that there is a right and a wrong goes all the way down to the Torah. And if there's a right way and women are just waiting, and the Torah says obviously the opposite, and there's an expectation of being married, then what are we actually appealing to other than ourselves in a subjective morality as opposed to the objective morality of God? We have to constantly look back to the Bible. That's why we're discussing the Bible. First day Bible discussion, episode 1. We and there's a reason why we have these texts to refer to. And then people will then completely avoid reading the Bible. Oh, I know that you just read Second Peter and First Corinthians 7, but God said to me that I need to wait. So God's going against His own word in the Bible, and He's just going to make you wait because you think He's going to just fall into your lap. More and more women are doing this. There is a woman that got married, not by waiting, but by finding a purpose. Your purpose as a woman is to have a husband and to help him. Okay? That's literally what it says in Proverbs 31. The Proverbs 31 woman, her purpose is to serve her family. You can't have a family without a husband. There's only one immaculate conception. That was Jesus Christ. Ain't nobody having children without a man and a woman involved. And these women want the same women, though, and this is the problem about those women and women in general, they don't want to be wives. They want to be brides and mothers. Oh, I can't wait to be a mother. And that will that sounds like the woman that I just uploaded. I haven't posted it yet, but I will be posting it soon. Well, she just like, oh, I can't wait to be a mother. I can't wait to raise my children. I can't wait to be, oh, a wife and get this and get that. But she never says, I can't wait to do this for my husband. I can't wait to serve a husband. These women never get a man because they never think about what they have to do for a man. It's always about themselves. That's what transactional, what I want, what I need to do to get it, how I can get it, and what I need to do to get it. There's no acts of service. What do I need to do for this person? What do they need? That's built into the system for a man. Oh yeah, I have to provide, I have to protect, I have to lead, I have to love. It's also in the Bible. I have duties. But women seem to always want to avoid the duties that's called for in the Bible. We were just watching this movie Lord of War with Nicolas Cage, and the wife decides that she when she knows what Nicolas Cage is doing. She doesn't know, but she knows. She's like, I know something wrong. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know. You know what I mean? Just don't risk our relationship over it. Right? But she takes all the money. She keeps living in the place. She keeps taking all the money. Oh, I can't wear these clothes. It's covered in blood. Immediately wears the clothes, continues to live in that place, same place months. Like, don't bullshit me. And then she like turns on him. She turns on him and tells them where the cache of his stuff is. What a betrayal, dude. What it like when David is on the run from Saul, his wife, Saul's daughter, distracts Saul with a doll underneath the bedding. Okay, so by the way, under that the old put a pillow, something that looks like a person underneath um a blanket. You can thank the Bible for the original OG. Okay, and so I was like, I can't be mad at you. You're a good wife, right? What am I going to punish you for protecting your husband? That's what the Lord of War, Nicolas Cage, his character's wife. That's what her job is. It doesn't matter if she agrees. It doesn't matter if she likes it or not. It doesn't matter nothing. You need to serve your husband. You need to submit. It doesn't matter if he's not doing something or this, that, that. That's a conditional submission. There's no conditional submission here. You submit to your husband, even if he's a non-believer, but because through your submission and living your life as it's called to live for in the Bible, you may lead this person by your actions to the truth. Okay? That's Paul speaking, not Arthur. So when people miss what the woman's duty, and they're always talking about what men have to do and the men, what are women supposed to do? Why are 50%, over 50% of women in the UK over 30 single and childless? It's 38% here in America, and it's going upward. 38% of the mothers that are having children, plus 70% in the Black community are single mothers. Plus 60% in the white community is single mothers. I think Hispanic is 50 or 40. And you could break down those segments into different subsects too. But all those numbers are going up to where the point that 40% to 50% of children are being born to single mothers. Okay? And women want to wait. What is this all pointing to? Women want to wait. They want to have they never find a man, but they sure do know that they want to be mothers. They want to tell other people what to do. They want to raise someone else. And there's a lot of single mothers and the women that are having children. They don't have a man. They just they just magically got pregnant. They don't ever want to get married. There is an underlying cultural issue, cancer, if you will, that is sucking dry the market of viable partners for marriage in America. Okay? And it's not bad for me. Listen, I'm that top 15%, that's me. So I don't have to fucking worry about it, but I see all the suffering and I say, this is bad. I'm married. Other women want to marry me. I believe in polygamy. I can get married to another woman. So I'm not worried about the shortage of women for me. It's that over half of men, okay, are going to be single, childless, and if you, I think half of men are single, childless, middle class, and like 30% plus of men are either virgins or haven't had sex in a year. That's going to go up. That's going to go up. 30% of men. That's because historically, only 40% of the male population has reproduced, while 80% of the population of females have reproduced. That's because polygamy. But today we have monogamy and we have single mothers with multiple baby baby daddies with multiple baby mamas. Worse, baby mamas with multiple baby daddies. That's even worse. That's nowhere near the biblical. Oh, but we can't talk about these things. We'll just tell women to wait because maybe they'll become they might be a single mother. They may become a single mother because they can't submit and do the things that is called for as a duty of a wife. This is one of the single most disturbing trends in the church for me. Other than there's many, like women being witches in the church and women fucking calling for abortion in the church. But when we see well-meaning Christian women, believing Christian women, being forever single, never having the touch of a man, wanting children, wanting love, praying to God every day, but not doing what's necessary. This is a pitiful, sorrowful sight. And this is just another point of the modern church has completely made everything this theoretical mental exercise that is all about a philosophical change in your mind, as opposed to changing your actions, doing what you need to do, trying to know God, trying to know right from evil, not by your own reckoning, like the snake says in the garden to Eve, but by God's reckoning, by looking at the week, the day, by the biblical standard, not by man's standard, and then using all that understanding that you get from the Bible, from the law, from God, not from me. Go look yourself. Then you can use that to judge righteously. Open your mouth, judge righteously. If your brother is in sin, go to them in private. If they still sin, bring 2 or 3 witnesses and talk to them in private. If they still do it, bring it out to them in public. And if they continue and refuse to repent, then you treat them like a pagan or a tax collector and you cast them out. People are supposed to be holding each other accountable. That's the ongoing theme of this podcast, and also the ongoing theme of just tradcon content, red pill, all this stuff. I made a video on MGTOW and how it's like completely off track, but I still watch some of the content. They still have good points. They're not liars. Just going your own way is like this extreme melodramatic thing that they're saying, and there's a way, and there are women out there that want to be married, and even among the passport bros are finding out that women in other countries are it's not just this ethnic culture that is going to make things ordered in your life. It's God's standard. It's God's culture. It's his people's culture. The real one of the Bible, not the one that people make up and make all these extra rules and standards and say this is bad and that's bad. Just following the Bible for what it says. I would absolutely recommend everyone to read the Bible, okay? And instead of listening to disingenuous liar, atheists, academics that don't know anything about anything really, they're just literally TikTokers in an academic setting, quoting unreliable sources and coming up with Marxist generic deconstructive arguments that have no bearing on an objective morality or society or reality with facts, but more so interpretive. Oh well, well if it could be this, well it could be a lot of things. What does it say? What is logically the through line, not that you're imprinting on the writing? What do the first people in the first century and second century say and do? That's what we appeal here on this channel. I mean, we read the Bible, we try to look to the roots of the church, but we're not gonna make anything gospel except the gospel, and we will make only the law. I mean, and that's what the Bible is, the law and the gospel. Like, everybody knows it. Martin Luther knew it. Various Catholic theologians, Augustine. I'm not saying anything new, but the problem is you say law and gospel, and then you really mean gospel, and you throw out the law. Modern Christianity, and that's the problem. You can say you're a Protestant and you come from Martin Luther and blah blah blah, but if you don't say law and gospel, even the Muslims have a verse in their surah, or I think, or is it the Quran, where they're like, oh, if you don't stand on the law and gospel. And then the problem is there's so many modern Christians that don't stand on the law and gospel. They stand on doctrine. They stand on feelings. They stand on what sounds nice. They have this nice image of Jesus where they think that all he did was hugs and kisses, as opposed to publicly sun and correct Pharisees and other arguers, lawyers in public, and insult them to their face. And then, but modern Christianity is like, nice. Oh, well, you're mean. Oh, geez. They wouldn't. Then you don't like Paul. Then you don't like Jesus. Then you don't like Isaiah. You don't want to read the Old Testament. You don't want to read Moses. He gets mad. Oh, you don't want to read what God says when he's mad. Don't read Ezekiel 23 when it's a whole monologue of God just tearing into Israel and Judah and just calling them things that I can't even say on this live because I'll be censored. But that's what modern Christianity is. They're censored. The mainstream has using slogans. It's all become sloganized, and you might as well have Buddy Jesus on the front steps of your church. It's a joke. That's why things like this, that's going to open the floodgates with, like what I was talking about earlier with Nala and her conversion. It's going to open the gates for all of these old, used up only fools to close down their only fools and then say, I am changed, and it's going to be the new Grift, because they did that in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. To this day, porn stars do that all the time. And now Nala's on Michael Knowles, and after having all of her pornography free for a week. You're crazy. You're crazy. Modern Christianity is not doing what it needs to uh, gatekeep and have a standard. It's become this. It's become like an extension of the Libertarian Party. You're basically all libertarians. Oh, I can't tell them what to do. They just have to live their own. No, that's not what it says in the Bible. As I just spoke off verses talking about how you correct your brother in private, and if it's not, you bring 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 witnesses, right? That's from the Torah, the law. This is always referring to the law. And if they don't do that with 2 or 3 witnesses, you bring it to the entire congregation. That's the public. And if they don't repent, you throw them out, or no, you throw them out and you treat them like a pagan or a tax collector. I say this again to circle back everything that I just discussed in this entire live. Okay? The accountability, the ability to hold accountable believers to a standard is completely removed when you remove the law. Because now we're walking by the Spirit, which is nebulous, as opposed to being definable, as it is in Ezekiel 36:27, when it says, I will put my Spirit in them and it will cause them to walk in my statutes and commandments, which is, once again, a reference to the law of God. So when we have no accountability, when we can't even tell the days apart the way that the Bible says, as opposed to how we say it, how are we going to tell a real believer from a non-believer? How if we have that type of non-discernment, inability to reconcile the our lives with what's happening and what the word prescribes, what is good, how is that going to be a positive for the belief, for us, the church? The church, I mean all believers, not just your church or my. The church is this spiritual nation called Israel that didn't replace Israel, but is now, some branches have been cut off and new branches have been grafted in. Romans 11. Okay? But all these things, there are all these doctrines. Oh, well, that's done away with. Oh, we're in a new dispensation. Oh, I don't have to follow the law. That's Old Testament. That's Old Covenant. What's the New Covenant? I'll put my law in their hearts and in their mind. Are you what? That's the New Covenant. Hebrews 8:10 and 10:16, which are direct quotes from Jeremiah 31:33. But we can have those conversations, and I have had those conversations many times on the channel. But if you can't have those conversations and you can't reconcile, then you're going to have women that are like, oh, well, God told me this and God told me that. It doesn't, I mean, there's no standard to hold anything accountable. There's no, I can say whatever I want. It's subjective. And then you have women who get old in the church, die alone, don't have kids, end of their bloodline, sad life. No one's there to take care of them when they're dying. No one's there to hold their hand. They didn't have children, which is a major part of the human experience for the majority of humans which are capable. It's literally a part of the process. We all were babies one time. We're supposed to continue doing, like, it's unfortunate that we've gone so far away from the Bible. And women trying to wait is just another bad doctrine that no one's going to hold them to the fire and hold them accountable to the Bible about. And unfortunately, I've known a lot of women, both related and associated with, that are or became old and, you know, didn't have any of the things that they wanted and died. You know, people think that I'm going to live to 60. I'm going to live forever. You could die tomorrow. You could die when you're 14. You can die 3 weeks out of the womb. Part of the belief system is not to take anything for granted and to wait and take for granted your ability to go try to find someone and be found. It's a bit of a ungrateful, selfish, narcissistic, unrealistic, illogical idea, and no one holds them accountable because they're the majority of churchgoers, and therefore they're the majority of the income of churches. So you can't hold them to the fire. You can't say anything, and when you do, they just continue to do it. No one's changing them. There are tons of solutions to this. We've talked about before. We talked about singles ministries, and we've talked about matchmaking, dating coaches. Both things which I offer. If you go to my Instagram, I offer coaching on dating, and you know, if you want to discuss such things and trying to replan your life. We've helped some people with you know, talking, whether it be about Torah and helping them understand Torah, or understand relationships, understand portions of the relationship, talk about trauma and shedding trauma so they can move on and their duties in goal in their relationships. We've helped some people, and some of the people that we've helped are actually married now, not 100% thanks to us, but we would like to think that we've helped guide people more toward marriage and consistent relationships. We are one part of a cog in a whole community of people that should be telling people to get married. And it can't just be all the old people. It has to be people and of your peer group. And as a society, we've become all decided to wait, and this is and it's a problem for another day. Anything to add on that subject?
No.
Nope. Nope. All right. Just overall, waiting is a bad idea. That is the opposite of what you should be doing, which is doing something to become a wife. You should be becoming a wife. You're a wife before you're found a wife. You should be doing something to find that man, to be presented to that man, like Ruth did to Boaz. So overall, I think I connected it all together. I actually kind of concluded before I actually finished. Like, I made my point about women waiting for marriage, and then concluded everything. And I kind of think I did it twice over because like a whole bunch of people joined in there at the end. Anything else?
Um, no. I to add on to like the women waiting,
Yes.
I just thought of something because women
You just want to project your voice a little bit more.
I believe it's First Corinthians. It talks about
Super.
how a husband is like Christ and is the head of the wife, and the wife is like the church, and they're supposed to, in the marriage, they're supposed to emulate Christ and the church.
Mm.
Um, and I believe women have this notion um, like they'll pick and choose at Bible verses like he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Oh, that means he's supposed to be chasing after me and find me. But if you're
Right.
supposed to be emulating the church,
Imitating.
imitating the church? Aren't you supposed to be chasing after? If you're imitating the church,
Or emulating. You're trying to say emulate or imitate.
emulate,
Okay.
emulating the church.
Because
You were
immolate is like burning something.
okay.
Em-
Emulate,
Emulate, yeah, like an emu.
emulate the church, then you're supposed to be chasing after Christ. It means chasing after who you would want to be your husband.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point, that women will use these selective verses about, oh, man who finds a wife finds a
Or I'm
good
his
thing.
rib. He's supposed to
Oh,
find me.
I'm his rib, right? Which is alluding to also kind of the idea of a soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
Soulmate is a totally unbiblical idea. Uh, that's a Greek story from Aristotle about how men and women used to be one being and split apart. You friggin' plebes, you read the Bible. Where is the soulmate? Where is soul in the Bible? It's in the Greek in the New Testament. Where's the soul in the Old Testament? And soul is actually the same word as nefesh, which can be throat, but it can also mean body, because your body is in irrevocably connected to your being. We get new bodies in the kingdom. So people will be like, "Oh, I'm pilot of my system." That's a really like evolutionary way of like viewing things. No, we are a being put together from clay originally as one thing: spirit and body. Not spirit, soul, body, spirit, soul, body. It's the spirit, body. Spirit is God's spirit, God's breath. Okay. Anyway, which gives us life. Okay. Tangent. That was a tangent. Going back to what you're saying, but they will then ignore. They'll take those verses. Oh, I'm a treasure. I'm a rib, which is not in the Bible, right? I'm just ribbing it. And they'll ignore like where they're actually getting it from. Like I was just saying, the rib.
Mm-hmm.
It says, yeah, you're made to be a helpmate.
Yeah.
You're made to help the husband. You're made to serve the husband. You in the case of man finds a thing, yeah, he finds a wife. The wife is already a wife when he finds her.
Mm-hmm.
That means she's actively doing what's necessary to be a wife, which women aren't doing. They're just waiting. What waiting? Is that what women are supposed to do? And then they want like the top 20% of men. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be most women wanted just to be in the modern era, just wanted to be middle class. Now everybody wants to be rich. They want the top 15% men to be all rich, and not only rich but also, you know, a secret agent super spy that has millions of dollars and is attractive and well spoken and always available, but also aloof, but emotionally available, but also cold sometimes, and stoic and tattooed all the way up to the neck. But the mother loves them, but their mother loves them, and her mother loves them. And not only that, he also drives a race car, but he's really humble about it. And he doesn't talk to other women. No, that would be ridiculous. That'd be ridiculous. Polygamy? Oh, that'd be a ridiculous thing. So they end up never getting anything because what they expect is ridiculous. Even the idea of like expecting a 15% top 15% man to be monogamous, when even in the Bible God allows polygamy. In Exodus 21:10, identifies as a polygamist in Ezekiel 23, all of the chapter. People ask, like, what verse? The entire chapter. Jeremiah uh, 3, 8 to 10, and Jeremiah 31, 31 to 33, which we just mentioned is the new covenant as well. He mentions being married to them, Judah and Israel. Um, so God identifies as a polygamist and allows it. God doesn't do evil and he doesn't allow evil. Ergo, polygamy is allowed, but these women will never, ever even think about it unless presented with it from a really attractive man that is able to provide for them. But otherwise, they won't even consider it. You know what I mean? And even then, it's this like turmoil process. Oh, but that might be bad. But that might is that wrong by the Bible? I'll explain it, and they'll usually understand because it's pretty like solid, uh, easily explainable. But unfortunately, most women will never have that approach in their life. Especially these older women, they might be ready to be a wife then. At that finally, they'll be ready to be a wife. But it'll be too late to have a single husband. But they can marry another man who has multiple wives, and they can be provided for. But such things cannot be discussed because that's we can't discuss things outside of the thing that I've been inculcated to say. I just respond. That's how Jesus said. I'm like, Jesus definitely said that. He is that word. He's literally that. Paul is literally quoting Exodus 21:10 in Corinthians 1 Corinthians 7. Uh is that an accident? Why didn't he also say, "Oh, by the way, polygamy bad"? No one ever says that. God never condemns it. Um I know I keep on going on tangents here. I love talking to you about these things. But yeah, I think that undoubtedly they use out of context doctrines and comments, uh, verses, and comment on them as if they are, oh, this is exactly what it means, and then you'll ignore the entire Bible. It's like you didn't read the Bible, you didn't read anything. Esther is submissive. They're all submissive. Every woman is submissive. Deborah isn't like this outspoken domineering woman. She's submissive. They're all submissive. Every woman, every single friggin' one, from the beginning to the end, is a submissive woman, and they all want to be married, and they all uh are expected to be married and have children. And for some reason, today, because of all of the interaction with the Babylon, which practiced Methuseleian theory of population control, which have been affected most of all in the church because it's been effeminized and infiltrated by Marxists. You can even ask Dr. Marshall Taylor, who wrote the book Infiltrated. It's been infiltrated by communists / Marxists. It's been infiltrated by feminists, and it's been absolutely dissected and decimated to the point where it's completely weak. I don't
I
even know
agree.
what.
I said I agree.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
Uh, about the way the lack of women submitting because they
Oh,
want to pick and choose Bible verses that say a husband's supposed to find me. I'm not supposed to
right.
be pursuing a man.
And then no one's
But
holding them accountable.
but
Nothing's
it's just reflecting how unsubmissive modern Christian women are.
completely.
But it tells us all the I mean, oh, why are we not talking about men and how they're supposed to be dominating?
I saw like a friggin' notification. I kind of got distracted in the middle of talking. But yeah, after I finished that thought, I was like, "What was I talking about?" Yeah, it's just it's without any type of counterbalance. In fact, any counterbalance is absolutely rejected. And so I know I was speaking about something specific. What was the
Polygamy.
no, after that?
Um,
Because I was just leading back into it's been effeminized for so many reasons, and that's why they're able to have such nebulous doctrines about women not finding a man, not being a man with a man. You know what I mean? Like we don't need any of the standards of the old Bible. We have the new standards of today. You know what I mean? They appeal to everything but reality. I had said something about Babylon. Babylon had set some standard. I'd forgotten. Babylon be setting a lot of standards that people just appeal to. There was a particular one. I've probably said enough about it already. I spent 30 minutes on each topic, and then I spent another 20 minutes um pretty much tying everything together. Any last thoughts before we go?
nope.
All right, we want to thank you, Love y'all. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting. If you want to support the Subscribe Star, be a part of the community, which we're trying to create a physical community. Link in the description. Also follow me on social media. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Once again, stay up, stay vigilant, stay locked and loaded. Shalom, shalom. Peace in.